going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we have a really cool one for you. We're going to be talking about the top damage in Ultra Nightmare as of this moment. Could change tomorrow, could change in an hour, but as of right now, I do believe I have the highest key in Raid Shadow Legends for Ultra Nightmare. We have 226.14 million damage in a key. A bit ridiculous. It's working for a few reasons. We're going to go over that shortly here, but a ton of fun. First, we give credit where it's due. The team composition was not created by myself. I found this through a player named Pavo, P-A-V-O, and it was really cool. There were a few things about this that I said, this is interesting. I kind of want to test this out, send it to Plarium, see if it's working as intended. It has to do with Under Priest Brogni. He has a mechanic that I'm going to show you in this video, which led me to get this record, and I wasn't sure if it was right. My intention wasn't to try to push for the top damage initially, so I wanted to build the team, replicate it, see what was going wrong, see if it really was working, and basically they said, we see how it's working and we're not going to change it. So TLDR, it's working as intended. However, as far as what it's specifically doing, it's not doing what they thought it would do, but it's a whole big thing. So without wasting any time, let's get straight into the team comp, and this comp is actually going to be different. Other world records I've done, I've had to manual them to min-max. This one I didn't have to do that with, and this one is actually granted if you have all 5 of the champions you need, which is going to be Iron Brago, Krisk, Under Priest Brogni, Valkyrie, and finally Lydia. If you have all of them, if they're available, they're not held up in dungeons, arena, wherever you're using these champions, you can actually build a team like this in one key, any affinity, Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare, and Brutal very easily with minimal gear, and I mean very minimal gear. So I'm going to kind of break this down, show you what I did, and we'll go on from there. Alright, so as you can see, the one key I did do earlier is 226.14 million, the current highest I've done. This particular composition takes a lot of time out of your day, and I mean, not that I'm doing anything, to be honest with you guys, but even just letting it run on auto, it does take a lot of time. You have to be careful because if it goes over the turn cap, it's all over. So as we can see, this did take 56 minutes and 34 minutes. So I could sit here, run this team over and over. I believe the highest threshold damage you could possibly get with these 5 champions that I have is probably closer to 234, 235 million damage in a single key. However, this is what I came up with. I'm probably going to take this team apart to use these champions in other parts of the game, so kind of a open board for anyone who wants to attempt this multiple times, trying to break this record here. But really quickly, going over the champions itself here, Iron Brago doing 74.3 million damage. Krisk the Ageless at 18.3. It's unfortunate because he has that A2, I believe, that doesn't do any damage. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's the A3 now that I think about it. Under Priest Brogni, who was the champion in question here, doing 64.6 million damage. And just thinking about these numbers out loud, Iron Brago did enough to one key on his own. Under Priest Brogni, not that far behind. Pretty crazy if you think about it. Valkyrie here doing 44 million damage, and finally Lydia the Death Siren at 24.7 million, totaling up to 226.14, the current record we have. So with that being said, I'm going to run the start of a key really quickly because I'm going to tell you guys the speeds, and after we do that, this will be how to set this up if you ever have these champions and want to run this for, like I said, any affinity you want to, and for Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare, as well as Brutal. So we're going to start off the key here, and we're going to start off with a nice A1. We are going to follow that up with an A3 from Lydia the Death Siren. After that, we're going to go ahead and A1 with Krisk, followed by an A3 with Iron Brago, A1 with Valkyrie. Valkyrie's the kind of important one you want to watch here. This does go auto fairly quickly. We just did one turn. This is going to be the second turn here, and this one's rather easy to remember. All you have to do here is A3 with Under Priest Brogni, then it's just straight A2s across the board. A2 here, A2 from Krisk, A2 from Iron Brago, A2 from Under Priest Brogni now that he's lapped. Then finally you A1 with Valkyrie, then we hit that magical auto button. So from here to 56 minutes, however many minutes I just showed you in that last, this runs full auto here. But we're going to see very quickly after this stun here why Underpriest Brogni is so good and what his real value is and what he added to this key, making all of this possible here. Now, like I said, I am running this on green affinity. You can run this on any affinity you want. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of hitting void in my clan because of when I wake up, so I did have to test this on an affinity here. However, we're going to see the first AoE here and see why Underpriest Brogni is so good. So if you look at the numbers, even though you couldn't see them because they were so bunched together, that damage there was reflect damage from Underpriest Brogni and how his kit works with him reflecting damage based on the damage you take from the shields. Now, if you run Giant Slayer, which I did do on Underpriest Brogni, you can actually reflect and proc Giant Slayer 5 times on all of these champions, and that's a lot of damage. 67,000 damage, I believe, per hit here. So it's a ton of damage overall, and let's see if we see it here. Yes, we just saw 67,000. It procced multiple times there, so all of that's going to add up. Now, this team does survive all the way to turn count 135. If you go any amount of turns past 135, after the stun, it's going to come up with an error message because I have reached the turn limit. So for those of you who don't know, there is a turn limit on this game. I believe the number is going to be 1,500 attacks from the champions. This does not apply to Relentless gear or extra turns like that. Those attacks are coded a bit differently, so it's going to apply to normal turns that you actually activate as the player and isn't chained. So 1,500, like I said, turn count 135. As soon as that slam comes down is when I've always been ending these turns here. So this team can live past, I think I've gone to 257 million damage so far. However, as soon as you end the run, it says error, so it's not going to be any official number that I could use and put forward as being any type of record for this team. So now that I've kind of showed you the deal with Underpriest Brogni, once again we are seeing that 67,000 number popping up here. There were a few questions, is this going to be legit, which is why I initially did my first test, and as soon as I did my first test, I believe I hit 216 million damage, and I said, wow, this actually does a ton of damage depending on how you build it here. So these champions, the gear I have on them, you don't need anything like this. If you wanted to replicate this, you could literally use 3-star, 4-star gear. The speeds, the buffs these guys have, the debuffs these guys have, as you can see, Iron Brago is in fact in a poison set. He's also crit capped. You can get rid of all of that and you can still one key because of how strong the synergy is with all of these buffs on all of these different champions here. You are going to do fantastic. So if you do happen to have all 5 of these champions currently available for your use, you have an awesome new team. It's not unkillable. I know a lot of people don't like unkillable teams. I kind of feel the same way. I do like this brute force, make him as tanky as possible. I'm not a huge fan, to be honest with you, of how Underpriest Brogni works. I've gotten many world records before for the clan boss, and this one didn't feel as good. I mean, the number's definitely insane, for sure. I never thought this type of number can come, but the fact that it can live so much further, I don't want to say this should be harder, but I think maybe they should scale the damage a little bit higher, only for people really competing for clan boss. This wouldn't change anything for anybody 1king. I'm talking about turn maybe 110, 105, start really scaling up that damage, because the fact that I was able to live to do almost 270 million damage on this, you know what I mean? Hopefully you guys know what I mean. So that's kind of what I would like to see out of this. Since I don't think they're going to change any of this, it's been very hard to calculate getting the maximum damage per turn here, and I'm not going to do a full run. Obviously, who's going to make a 56-minute video? Who's going to watch it? So what I want to do now is talk about the speeds of this champion, just in case you do want to replicate this. Alright, so for speeds, the first champion we're going to talk about is Lydia the Death Siren. We have her at 267.97 speed, pretty much 268 speed. Now, one important thing to note, I am not comfortable enough with this speed tune to say you can go a little bit higher here, you can go a little bit higher here. I used these speeds with no exception. If anyone was one speed short, one speed too fast, I fixed it so they were exact. It always worked as intended, because that's very key when gearing, especially if you want to push for a world record. You have to know your speed exactly so you can go to min-max other stats and not really sacrifice too much there. So 268 speed on the dot for Lydia the Death Siren, 238 speed for Krisk the Ageless, no exceptions on Krisk. Under Priest Brogni is going to be faster than Lydia by 1. So what does that mean? He is going to be 269 speed since she is 268 speed. Next we have Iron Brago. He's going to be at 199 speed. Now this champion, there is some play with this champion. I was able to test speeds from 199 to 206 myself, put them in the runs. They did last all the way to turn 135. However, trying to go outside of that, I would not recommend because I haven't tested it. If you want to go for it, put it in any type of calculator, see if it works. You can definitely do that. However, that's the speed threshold that I personally picked that I can confirm I'm comfortable with and will last through the entire run. Next we have Valkyrie. She is another one that I did not touch at all with their speeds. She's at 190 speed on the dot here. So if you want to live as long as I live, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? This is something that if you're a competitive player and you're trying to break a record, you're going to have a rough idea to hit the numbers that I'm hitting as far as what you can do with your gear. Figure out different ways to min-max with your mastery, so on and so forth. So gearing on that point, I'm not really going to talk about how I geared my champions because it's much better to have someone coming into this trying to do more damage than I currently did here with this key, saying what can I do that will possibly one up this key, making it a little bit better. So giving you your own base, your own route for ideas to kind of improve from here on out. However, if you are looking, like I said, to just one key any content, you can get away with 4-star gear, 5-star gear, and all of these champions, maybe besides under Priest Brogni and Lydia. The only reason why I say that is because they have a higher speed requirement. It has nothing to do with their survivability. That I promise you, if you are dying early, I'm not really sure, maybe using 2-star gear, but if you can hit those speeds, have them in decent gear, you could run Stalwart, although once again, Stalwart's for someone who's looking for over 100 turns here. I didn't even run Stalwart on anybody, and I was still running past 140, 150 turns, past that turn limit, so this is what you can do. This was a really fun team. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think about this team? This is an insane amount of damage. Once again, huge shout out to Pavo for talking with me. Really cool guy. Loved going over this team with him. I had a lot of fun replicating this. I did spend about a day min-maxing the damage as best as I could to get this number here, because I think the original team that I made, I did 220 million damage, and then I kept min-maxing from there and came up to the final number at 226. Like I said, probably not going to try to do this again. The key takes a long time, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Give me your feedback. What do you guys think? As always, guys, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.